Spirituality is not an escape from life's difficulties. Rather, it is an embracing and illumination of them. When we recognize that each of us includes all traits and emotions, however much we might like to disown some of them, and when we can approach these with compassion, we cannot help but behave more compassionately, however fiercely, toward others. Spirituality is love and awareness functioning as one. Soul's embrace is both panoramic and particular, touching the universal without neglecting the personal and interpersonal. When its heart breaks, it breaks open, and the circle of its reach is widened. I love that. Hi, y'all. Guess where I grew up? So glad to be with you this morning. I haven't been to this church in a long time, and I'm proud to say that I watched it come from the ground up many, many years ago. So it's always a pleasure to be here. How many of you have been around Unity for, let's say, 20 years or more? Oh, good. Okay. This is for everybody, no matter how long you've been here or haven't been here. And Tim, I'm so glad you said what you did about peace in our politics. I've been playing with this idea for a while because some people are avoiding looking at what's going on in the political realm because they don't want to get caught up in all the juice. We'll just call it juice. How about that? And but I like to get into it because I like to see what's going on in consciousness that we're up against. And so what I'm going to talk to today is about how we handle ourselves, how we use ourselves as the lab rats, if you will, for consciousness to transform it. Because everything that we see out there that we don't like, unfortunately, you know the bad news is coming, right? Unfortunately, there is a piece of that exists in us, otherwise it wouldn't be manifesting out there as well. So it's up to us to look at it, see what's going on, see where we have some element of that in our way of being, in our less than highest self, and how we heal and transform that so that we can begin to add to the bank of higher consciousness in the world. So are you interested in that? Are you interested in maybe in some tools to work through that? Okay, good. I was going to say okay, good, whether you said yes or not, because we're going on this ride today anyway. And here's one thing I want to say. You saw that the title of my talk is Take the Scenic Route, Skip the Bypass. So what I want to say is not only are we taking the scenic route in the journey of our lives, we are the beautiful journey. We're the beautiful journey. Doesn't matter what's going on with us. We're the beautiful journey. You're not just on it, you are it. And that's an important distinction because being on a journey implies that we're somehow separate from it, as if our feet were not connected to our bodies, right? So how many of you have ever heard of spiritual bypassing? Okay, good. That's just a few of you, so I'm going to share a definition with you. This has been coming up lately. First of all, a word came across my news feed this week. I get a word every day that is a word usually that I have never heard before because it's not used very often. So I came across a word just this week called a pangloss. P-A-N-G-L-O-S-S, pangloss. A pangloss is a person who's optimistic despite the circumstances. Don't you just hate them? I mean, no, actually, optimism is a wonderful characteristic to have. It's just that we can't have optimism and positivity at the expense of looking a little bit deeper at the reality of things. So spiritual bypassing, I'm just going to read this to you. I am using for reference today a book called Spiritual Bypassing. It's when spirituality disconnects us from what really matters. So spiritual bypassing is a term that was first coined by psychologist John Wellwood in 1984. So people were spiritually bypassing before I ever even stepped into a Unity church. Who knew? It's the use of spiritual practices and beliefs to avoid dealing with our painful feelings, unresolved wounds, and developmental needs. I'm going to read that again because it's important. It's the use of spiritual practices and beliefs to avoid dealing with our painful feelings, unresolved wounds, and developmental needs. Aren't you glad you came to church this morning? It is much more common than we might think and is, in fact, so pervasive as to go largely unnoticed, except in more obvious extremes. So let's just take a little bit of a little journey through history to the New Thought movement, which started in the late 19th century. And if you ever want to do a little deeper reading into the start of religious science and unity and Christian Science, there's a great book out there called Spirits in Rebellion. It was required reading when we were in ministerial school, and it's by Charles Braden. And it shows how all of these intellectual and scientific movements in Europe spread to the United States that affected our spirituality and, of course, brought about some pretty significant changes in the religious culture. So what had happened was, if we go all the way back to the beginnings of the Bible, when the Jews were living under laws of obedience to God, they had more laws than you ever even want to read. If you have trouble going to sleep one night, open up the book of Leviticus and read that, because you'll get about maybe one chapter in before you're out. Full of laws, and this is the way that the Hebrew people kept themselves united against the people they were in captivity to, so that they were not influenced by the pantheistic gods. They had one God. So Jesus came along and he said, yeah, that's good to be obedient to God, but how's your relationship with God? How are you doing one-on-one? Do you talk to God like God is, and in Jesus' terms, is like a parent, a father? And people were like, well, no, we didn't think of it that way. And Jesus said, I came to fulfill the law. I came to go beyond the laws of obedience. Have that relationship. But somehow, especially here in the United States, and of course, I am glossing over a few hundred years. Somehow here in the United States, we got back to Christianity being about obedience, didn't we? We got all the way back to where the Hebrew people were when they were forging this relationship with the one God. And many of us grew up in churches where obedience is what was hammered into us. And a lot of us were damaged by that. And so if you came into unity and you found the spark of familiarity, if you found that spark of inspiration and identification that you were looking for, I would guess that it is because there is some spiritual autonomy. Again, focusing on your relationship with God, one-on-one. The Spirit that lives within you, that Christ-anointed being that is you, that is on this beautiful journey. Now, back in the days when I first came into Unity, back in 1987, I'd never heard of affirmations and denials. And then I discovered what a wonderful thing it was to be able to say, just to say the words, I'm a child of God. Immediately I felt lifted. And if you say those words over and over again, your belief system begins to shift. You begin to carve new grooves in your brain, in your neurotransmitter pathways. And so that was a wonderful thing. But although it addressed what people were facing right at the time, healing from their religious past, finding a new way of being, feeling like you could step out of the box that traditional religion keeps you in. There was some misuse, which I will call spiritual malpractice. There was some misuse of affirmations and denials and the truth that we know, and glossing over some of our deeper issues. And one of the examples that I always think of is one of my really beloved teachers back in my early days of ministry. She had us get down into the nitty-gritty parts of ourselves that we didn't necessarily want to look at. And we were having vision boarding one night. I don't know if people still vision board or, your prosperity chart, whatever you want to call it. And there was a woman, lovely woman in our group, and she made herself a treasure map, a vision board. She was going to make $1 million in real estate sales. And we said, "Oh, wow, what all have you got listed?" She said, "Well, nothing." Okay, how are you going to get to that $1 million? I don't know. I just know it's going to happen. We said, "Well, do you have a plan to go along with your vision?" "Nope, God will take care of me." Yes, and that implies that we're helpless. And we're just going to float on this God wind into our next right thing. We do that a lot. I mean, that's a good thing. But the other part of that is putting our hands and feet into our vision, into that which we are longing to express because it already lives inside of us. Longing to express it. Most of the time, our discontent occurs because we've got a longing that has not yet been addressed, that is requiring us to live out more of ourselves than we have so far. That's our challenge every day. That's our challenge in these times we're living in right now. Notice, if you're paying attention to what's going on in the world around you, if you start to get contracted. I can tell when it's happening. And then we have to breathe and expand back into the knowledge that we are part of this great human puzzle that we can't see all of yet. And our job, our only job, is to bring forth more of that indwelling Christ, more of those qualities of God, more of those 12 powers that we talk about, every opportunity that we get. And it requires us to explore ourselves in ways that may not feel comfortable. I know that I have heard and I have said, I don't really want to get into that part of myself. It's too uncomfortable. I don't want to drag through all that stuff again. Guess what's doing the dragging? All of the things that you don't want to encounter about your past, about your experiences, about something that happened to you, that you're not willing to have some healing around, it's running the show. Spiritual bypassing is when we say, it'll all be okay, I'm just not going to look at the icky stuff. So what we have evolved to just in the 37 years that I've been around Unity, 34 years that I've been around Unity, is that our spirituality has evolved in such a way that we can look at the reality of the world. We can look at the reality of our unhealed selves and hold the vision of our Christ self and all the affirmations that go with that. I am healed, I am whole, I am healthy in my mind, body, and spirit, in my finances, and in my relationships. You can hold those things. at the same time. We are capable of that. We are more magnificent than we give ourselves credit for. Your beautiful journey is not just the gift that you give to the world consciously. Your beautiful self also has all of your past experiences, any harm that was done to you, any struggles that you have faced, your addictions. All of those things are part of this beautiful package. And there should be no part of ourselves that we're unafraid to embrace. Because every part of us is due for, ready for, and embracing healing. Let me tell you what's happened in this last year. So, as Ellen said, I retired a year ago, and I had stepped out of the pulpit for about 10 years when my kids were growing up, but I still did guest speaking and weddings and funerals and baby blessings. So I've always had my hand in ministry, but in pulpit ministry most of that time. So to step away from that and say, I have this label that says, I'm retired. So weird. And I think, it was one of those situations where life had just kind of beat me down until retirement was the next thing. I think I stayed exactly the time that I needed to stay with my last ministry in Wimberley before it was time for me to know that that contract was complete. Not just the one on paper, but the one between them and me and God. So I stepped away. Big adjustment. And then, as Ellen also told you, my husband had been ill for a while, living in a senior center. And he died very quickly, not unexpectedly, but very suddenly in August. And although we'd been expecting something like this to happen, it was still quite a shock. And then my twin sons, who were just embarking on their journey into adulthood and their careers and everything when the pandemic hit, had been living with me, and they moved out in December. So I would say about 60 days ago, I was just going, so quiet. And it wasn't just quiet in my home environment, it was quiet. It was quieter in my head. It was quieter in my head. And so I have been on the last, since December, exploring the comfortable part of living on my own without anyone else around and no other distractions, and the uncomfortable part of having nobody's company but my own. Because, boy, your thoughts can get really loud. And I've had to catch myself in that questing for something to do, something to be productive about, because there was always something. And I know I'm not the only one that's gone through this experience. And so it's been quite a journey into this interior landscape and listening to myself and seeing myself in the context that I haven't had in a very, very long time. Well, I would say I've never had it because I've never been where I am in my life before. Now, I give thanks and I'm grateful for spiritual growth to this point. Otherwise, I would probably be climbing the walls. I get my fingernails on it every now and then. But it's important for us to say, oh yeah, there is this one thing that I keep glossing over that I haven't quite addressed yet. And beloved, I wish I could say that there is a point when that ends. Well, I can say there's a point when that ends, because then you die. But there is never a time that we are not on the quest for our healing. You see, in this spiritual malpractice that Unity kind of fostered for a while. Would you agree with that? Yeah. In that thing where, oh, just affirm it away. Don't you ever affirm anything away, because it will come back in spades. It's important for us to know that we have a constant companion. Our Christ Spirit is our constant companion, our guiding star, our inspiration, our hope. We have that to take us through all the icky parts. And we've all got them. God bless us. We've all got them. I can say right now, if you are dependent upon substances, if you're dependent upon substances in an unhealthy way, your spirituality will be stunted. I can tell you that if you have got a mental health issue that you've been meaning to go talk to somebody about, but you haven't done it yet, you can only go as far as that will allow you to do. Am I clear? And I'm speaking about this so emphatically today, my friends, because it's important that we do this work right now. I'm not saying there's a right way to do this, but there's kind of a right way to do this. To look right at ourselves and say, yeah, this has been bugging me and I've been putting it off. Let's take care of it, God, you and me. Let's take care of it, because we're not separate. We can do this together. We have to do it so we can heal the world. We have to. In that old way of spiritual malpractice, there was like an element of shame around it if we weren't demonstrating our truth principles all the time. If we ever got down about something, oh, it would make me so mad if somebody would say, well, cheer up, God's got this. I'm like, oh, shut up. Please. You know, don't ever say to somebody, everything happens for a reason. Ick. It may be truthful, it's not helpful. So if it's not kind or helpful, don't say it. What we do when we do those kind of things is we shut off the well of compassion. We have turned that right off. So it's possible for us to be optimistic and hold the truth and see life exactly as it is. We're living it. We're right here. I have veered so far off my notes. Oh, okay. I thought I'd better give you some practical, some practical things to consider. Your body maintenance. Take care of your body, beloved. The vehicle that you're living in needs care. It needs a tune-up. We sometimes take better care of our cars and our yards than we do our bodies. If you've been putting off a trip to the dentist, a trip to get your hearing checked, a trip to get a heart CT to make sure go do those things. Please go do those things. Go take care of your body, because every bit of unfinished business around your body takes away from your good energy. Every piece of unfinished business holds us back. Take care of your emotional health, your mental health, your relational health, your family health. If you came out of a crummy family system, there are plenty of resources out there, beloved, to help you work through what happened to you in that family system and how to step yourself out of it, okay? Avoid magical thinking. Avoid magical thinking. Man, that is a hallmark of our denial, our unhealthy kind of denial. Magical thinking, well, it'll just all work out. That's like saying, I'm going to drive on this flat. I'm going to drive on the flat, and see how long my rim holds out. Why would you do that? Go get your tire fixed. Be careful of yourself, that you do not abuse yourself by deciding that you're responsible for that illness that you have. Yes, you may need some healing in your body, but you do not get to shame yourself that you are ill. Anything that's going on with us is an opportunity for healing. Not always an opportunity for cure, but an opportunity for healing. Do you understand the difference? I have actually had people say to me back in the good old days, well, what did you do to make that happen? What were you thinking that this came about in your life? And one of our teachers would say, if somebody says that to you, you stomp on their foot and just say, what were you thinking to bring about that in your life? Don't do it to yourself. Don't do it to somebody else. Am I encouraging psychotherapy? Sure. If you need it, if you're stuck, go get some help. Talk it out with somebody else. Am I encouraging AA or any of the other 12-step programs? Yes. If you're working really hard and using up your energy trying to control how much you consume of a certain thing, you probably need some help. Am I saying that you need to have regular checkups, maybe a little body work or breath work? Yep, I'm saying that too. Because I don't know about you, but I want to be the very best, very strongest, most infused with spirit person that I can be as we go through 2024 and whatever's coming after that. You know, if we were in an old traditional church, we'd be putting on the armor of God. You know what I mean? Kind of the same thing. So those two are not mutually exclusive. The exploration of your self, your little s self, and a constant awareness of your Christ self. Those two are not mutually exclusive. They must be hand in hand. We must not skip over and anesthetize ourselves with our spiritual practices. There are people who meditate themselves and are no earthly good because they've meditated themselves into an anesthetic state, and they've skipped over some of the work that's not as much fun. That's why it's so important for us to have companions on the way, to hold faith for us when we can't hold it for ourselves, to lift us up when we're feeling low, where we can say our ugly truth that we don't want to tell anybody. We can say our ugly truth to somebody else and be delightfully surprised that they go, oh, okay, let's work with that. So much better at giving compassion to other people than to ourselves. I want to leave you with a last little bit from this wonderful book. I'm telling you, it is a gold mine of ways to explore your spirituality in a healthy way. Spirituality is not an escape from life's difficulties. Rather, it is an embracing and illumination of them. When we recognize that each of us includes all traits and emotions, however much we might like to disown some of them, and when we can approach these with compassion, we cannot help but behave more compassionately, however fiercely, toward others. Spirituality is love and awareness functioning as one. Soul's embrace is both panoramic and particular, touching the universal without neglecting the personal and interpersonal. When its heart breaks, it breaks open, and the circle of its reach is widened. I love that. Its wounds only more deeply expose its love. Ego says, I am who I think I am. Soul says, I am more than I can imagine. Spirit says, I am. We are light and we are darkness, and we are the flesh, be it of mud or stars, torn between the two, yet already the one, inseparable from the broken many.
Did you feel it coming in today? It's getting warmer, the sun is out. Life that has been resting for so long is starting to burst out everywhere around us. And so many things are going on here at UCOH here in springtime. Friday, Comfort Eze continues the Keep a True Lent study. Next Tuesday, Learn to Meditate with Dr. Dan Stasek. On March 16th, Anaya offers a spring equinox gathering in the pavilion. Check the UCOH calendar or app for information on more upcoming events. Yes, there is an app. There's an app for everything. Just search your app store for Unity Church of the Hills. Bring a friend and join us for our annual Iftar dinner in Friendship Hall on March 26th, served up for a love offering by our Turkish Muslim friends. Don't miss this unique opportunity to connect and celebrate with our spiritual community. Register online. Seating is limited. Sunday, March 16th, visionary author, musician, and inspirational speaker, Dr. Will Tuttle, and his lovely spouse, Madeline, will grace our stage. Dr. Will is speaking at our 11:30 Sunday service. Then at 1:15, his workshop, Opening the Intuitive Gate, will begin. A light lunch will be provided for all registrants. Then on Monday evening, he and Madeline will bring us Piano Passion, Concert for World Peace. Both the workshop and concert are presented on a love offering basis. Invite a friend and register online. If you haven't noticed, there are two things that are common to all of these events. Number one, register. This really does help our presenters prepare for each of their events, and it really does a lot of good. The other thing is love offering. This is the way that we support our spiritual community, is by love offerings. If you enjoyed the event that you're at, please donate to any extent that you wish. As we continue our transitional journey, on Saturday, March 23rd, we will take another step forward in our identity process by exploring our vision and mission. This will be a collective journey of understanding the power and purpose of having vision and mission statements, an exploration of what our current statements mean to us, and discernment about how those statements are alive in our community today. Register today for this important workshop. See the UCOH calendar for all details. Next Sunday, for the 8:30 Contemplative Sunday service, grab a coffee in Danish and join Reverend Jean Lean in the Legacy Suite or on Facebook as we explore and discover a new way of seeing and speaking of things. In the 11:30 service, join Reverend Tomas de Leon in the sanctuary or online for his enlightening talk, Church, Who Needs It? As spring whirls around us, so our preparations for the sacred Easter season blossom. Make plans to invite friends and join us for the Easter services and activities. Visit the UCOH website for information and to see how you can connect, engage, and contribute to help create an exciting, eventful Easter for our spiritual community. Sign up in the foyer today to join a volunteer team. Thank you. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I circulate, and I am grateful.